Learn to control your emotions. We live in a world where people are ruled more by feelings than by facts, where one emotional outburst can destroy a relationship, a reputation, or even a destiny. But here's the truth. Your emotions are powerful, and if you don't learn to control them, they will control you. Success doesn't belong to the smartest or the strongest. It belongs to the one who can stay calm in chaos, steady under pressure, and unshaken by storms. Emotional control isn't weakness, it's warfare, and the battlefield is your mind. Today, I want to show you how mastering your emotions is the key to unlocking your highest potential and living life on your terms. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Learn to respond, not react. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life is understanding that your emotions were never meant to be your master. They were meant to be your messengers. Emotions are signals, not commands. They're like a check engine light on your dashboard, not the steering wheel of your life. But most people treat their emotions as if they are the driver. When anger shows up, they lash out. When fear whispers, they shrink back. When discouragement hits, they quit. This is reaction, not response. And the difference between the two is the difference between sabotage and success. Reactions are immediate, emotional, and usually regrettable. Responses are intentional, measured, and powerful. The people who learn to pause, process, and then act with purpose are the ones who rise above the crowd and walk in clarity while others are stuck in confusion. Emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about translating them. When you feel fear, what's it trying to tell you? Maybe it's not warning you to run, but inviting you to prepare. When you feel anger, maybe it's revealing a boundary that's been crossed, but it's not giving you a license to explode. See, when you react, you hand over your authority to the emotion of the moment. But when you respond, you reclaim your power. That's what leaders do. That's what game changers do. They don't let the moment dictate their mood. They let their mission dictate their movement. And understand this. Emotions are temporary, but the consequences of reacting to them impulsively can be permanent. A harsh word said in anger might cost you a lifelong relationship. A fear-based decision might cost you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A jealous reaction might ruin your reputation. That's the price of letting emotions drive the car. But when you learn to feel what you feel without being driven by it, you become dangerous in the best way. You become unshakable. The world can't move you with noise when your inner world is governed by discipline. Let me tell you the secret. Emotional mastery starts with emotional awareness. Most people are unaware of what they're feeling and why they're feeling it. They just react and regret. But if you take the time to slow down and ask, what am I really feeling and what is it really about? You move from chaos to clarity. You shift from being controlled to being in control. That small moment of reflection creates a space where wisdom can speak louder than emotion. In that space, you can choose your response instead of being a slave to your reaction. Now, I know some people believe emotions just happen and you can't help how you feel, and to an extent that's true. You can't stop emotions from rising, but you can choose what you do next. You may not control the spark, but you control whether it turns into a wildfire. You can fuel it or you can contain it. Emotional maturity is learning to feel fully without falling apart. It's knowing that you can be angry and not sin. You can be hurt and still speak with honor. You can be afraid and still take bold action. The strongest people are not those who never feel, but those who feel deeply and still walk in discipline. Let me give you an example. Imagine a CEO in a high-stakes negotiation. Inside, he's anxious. Millions of dollars are on the line, but outwardly he stays calm, measured, focused. He doesn't let anxiety dictate the terms of the deal. Why? Because he's trained himself to respond, not react. Or picture a parent who's had a rough day at work, comes home and the kids are wild. Instead of snapping, she takes a deep breath, centers herself, and brings peace into the house. That's strength. That's leadership. That's what happens when you treat emotions like signals, not commands. You must stop giving emotions permanent power in temporary moments. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true, and it certainly doesn't mean it should be obeyed. Every emotion is trying to lead you somewhere. The question is, are you going to let it lead you to purpose or push you into a pit? It all comes down to choice. You can't always choose your emotions, but you can always choose your response. And every time you choose wisely, you're training your brain, rewiring your patterns, and building a future where your emotions serve you instead of sabotage you. So today, decide to flip the script. No more being led around by emotional chaos. No more knee-jerk reactions that cost you peace, progress, and purpose. Embrace the mindset of a leader. I feel it, I face it, and then I choose my response. When you do that, you'll find a level of power and peace that few ever experience. Because emotional control is not the absence of emotion. It's the strength to harness it and aim it in the direction of destiny. If you don't master your feelings will master your future. Your future doesn't rise or fall on your circumstances. It rises or falls on your emotional discipline. Let that sink in. Your future is not in the hands of fate. It's in the hands of your focus. And if you don't master your feelings will master your future. You can have all the talent, all the education, all the opportunity in the world, but if you are emotionally unstable, it will all slip through your fingers. Because emotions make terrible leaders, but they are incredible tools if you learn to lead them. Far too many people have lost marriages, businesses, friendships, and peace of mind not because of outside forces, but because they allowed their inner chaos to run the show. Your emotions can build your destiny or they can burn it to the ground. It depends on who's in control. Let's be real. Emotions are loud. When you're hurt, everything inside of you wants to shut down or strike back. When you're afraid, everything in you wants to run. When you're frustrated, the temptation is to quit, lash out, or blame someone. But here's the truth. Every time you let emotions lead, you're surrendering your power to something temporary. And that's dangerous. Your destiny is too big, too important, too valuable to be handed over to a moment of unchecked emotion. There are people depending on you to rise above your feelings. There are dreams assigned to your name that require you to be stronger than your mood. You can't build a stable future on unstable emotions. You must take authority over what you feel, because if you don't, what you feel will take authority over you. Look around. The world is filled with gifted people who never went anywhere. Why? Because they were talented but emotionally immature. They couldn't handle pressure, criticism, failure, or even success. They let insecurity dominate their decisions. They let jealousy drive their strategy. They let offense lead them out of alignment. That's emotional mismanagement, and it costs more than you think. Emotional mismanagement doesn't just delay your destiny. It can destroy it. Your feelings will lie to you. Your feelings will magnify problems, minimize blessings, and distort truth. That's why you can't afford to follow them. Feelings are indicators, not navigators. They can tell you what's happening inside, but they should never decide where you're going. Now, hear this. Emotional mastery is not about pretending to be a robot. It's not about denying how you feel. It's about developing the strength to act from vision, not emotion, because emotion is a snapshot of the moment, but vision sees the whole picture. Emotion says, react now. Vision says, wait, think, respond with purpose. When your vision is stronger than your emotion, your future becomes unstoppable. But if your emotions are louder than your vision, you'll keep starting things you never finish, burning bridges you need to cross, and blaming others for results that were really shaped by your lack of control. That's why self-awareness is critical. You have to start asking yourself hard questions when emotions rise. What am I really feeling? Why do I feel this way? What result do I want from this moment? Because if you don't identify the root of your emotions, you'll keep repeating cycles of self-sabotage. You'll think people are the problem when really your patterns are. You'll think it's life being unfair when really it's you giving your emotions too much control. If your life is always being driven by how you feel instead of what you know, you will stay stuck in frustration while watching others rise in freedom. Let me make this personal. There will be moments where your future demands that you keep moving even when you feel like quitting. There will be seasons where you'll have to serve even when you feel unappreciated, stay planted even when you feel overlooked, speak the truth even when you feel afraid, forgive even when you feel hurt. That's what mastery looks like. That's the price of progress. It's in those moments when you act from character, not emotion, that you grow into the person capable of carrying the future you've been praying for. Emotionally strong people don't always feel strong. They just don't let feelings write the story. Here's the irony: the more you master your emotions, the more peace and freedom you actually experience. Because now, your peace is no longer held hostage by what people say or don't say, what they do or don't do, or how the day goes. You become consistent in an inconsistent world. You become steady in unstable environments. And that kind of stability is magnetic. It draws trust, leadership, and opportunity. People follow the emotionally mature. People trust the emotionally disciplined, and your future opens up not just because you have the skill, but because you have the self-control to sustain it. So the challenge today is simple but not easy. Stop letting emotions decide the direction of your life. Stop giving them the keys to your future. Start building a mindset that filters every emotion through purpose, through vision, through wisdom. Your feelings don't get to vote on your destiny. They don't get to lead your decisions. You can acknowledge them without obeying them. You can feel deeply without being derailed. That is your superpower. That is your strength. And when you learn to master your feelings, you don't just protect your future, you empower it. Discipline your mind, and your emotions will follow like trained soldiers. If you want emotional control, you don't start by chasing your feelings. You start by disciplining your mind, because your mind is the command center, and your emotions are simply the foot soldiers. But if the command center is chaotic, then the soldiers run wild. Discipline your mind, and your emotions will follow like trained soldiers. That's the real battlefield. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your mental habits. Most people are trying to fix their emotions while leaving their mind unchecked. But you can't feel peace if your thoughts are toxic. You can't feel hope if your focus is on fear. You can't walk in emotional strength while allowing your mind to entertain every lie, every doubt, every offense, and every insecurity. You have to take your mind off autopilot and put it on assignment. You have to train it, shape it, command it, because what the mind dwells on, the heart begins to feel. Your emotions are mirrors of your meditations. If you wake up every day and think about what's missing, who hurt you, how hard life is, and what you don't have, don't be surprised when you feel depressed, angry, and anxious. Your mind has already built the emotional environment you'll live in that day. But flip that. If you take control of your thoughts in the morning, if you speak truth, if you fix your focus, if you set your intention, you create an emotional foundation of peace, clarity, and strength. That's why the battlefield isn't out there, it's right here in your head. You must start leading your mind before it misleads your emotions, because whatever you let grow in your head will grow roots in your heart. Discipline is not about suppressing thoughts. It's about replacing them. You don't defeat fear by ignoring it. You defeat fear by feeding your faith. You don't silence anger by pretending it's not there. You silence anger by understanding its source and choosing a different lens. This is where the mentally disciplined rise above. because they know that emotions respond to the narratives we build, and most of us don't need a new situation, we need a new story. If your story is, they always leave me, I'll never succeed, life is unfair, then your emotions will line up with that story every time, but change the story, change the state. Tell yourself, I am learning, growing, and evolving. And your emotions will start marching in the direction of growth. Say, I have what it takes, and confidence begins to show up. Tell your mind who you are, and your emotions will start following orders. Your mind is a garden. If you don't plant intention, weeds of insecurity, fear, comparison, and bitterness will grow by default. But if you plant discipline, if you feed your mind with books that build you, conversations that challenge you, truths that anchor you, your emotional world will begin to change. Slowly, yes, but surely. It's not magic, it's maintenance. You must be the gatekeeper of your thoughts, the architect of your mindset, because you are not a victim of every thought that pops into your head. You are the leader, the thinker, the decision maker, and when you understand that, you stop reacting to emotions that were never meant to lead. You start leading them. Now let's be clear. Discipline doesn't mean you never feel emotional. It means you don't let emotion run the mission. It means when fear rises, you look it in the face and still make the phone call. When doubt shows up, you still write the business plan. When anger flares, you breathe, pause, and respond with clarity, not chaos. That kind of control doesn't come from motivation. It comes from mental training. Every time you choose truth over a lie, focus over distraction, peace over panic, you are training your mind to take the lead. And when your mind leads well, your emotions stop resisting and start assisting. Emotions were never meant to be the enemy. They just need a disciplined mind to give them direction. Think about it. A soldier without a leader will shoot anything that moves, friend or foe. That's your emotions without mental discipline. But when the leader is clear, when the mind is strong and settled, emotions become assets. Fear becomes focus. Anger becomes advocacy. Sadness becomes reflection. Even pain becomes purpose, but only when the mind is in command. That's why renewing your mind is not optional. It's essential. It's how you recalibrate your emotional life, because you can't stop every storm, but you can build a mindset that won't sink when it comes. You can't control every outcome, but you can train a mind that doesn't fold under pressure. So if your emotions are out of control, the question isn't, what do I feel? The real question is, what am I thinking? Because behind every emotional pattern is a mental habit. And mental habits can be broken, replaced, rebuilt. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional. Start small. Catch your negative thoughts. Replace lies with truth. Surround yourself with wisdom, not noise. Speak what you want to feel, not what you fear. Train your mind daily, and your emotions will fall in line. Because when the mind is disciplined, the emotions are empowered. When the mind is weak, the emotions run wild. Choose discipline, choose leadership, choose a mindset that commands peace, and the emotions will obey. Emotional control is the thermostat of success. Set it right, and your life heats up. Emotional control isn't just personal growth, it's strategic power. It's not just a nice to have, it's the thermostat of your success. Wherever you set your emotional temperature, your life will begin to heat up to match it. Set it low with negativity, self-pity, and impulsiveness, and everything around you chills. Relationships suffer, opportunities slip, and growth stagnates. But set it high with faith, focus, and composure, and your environment starts rising. Doors open, influence expands, clarity sharpens. You see, people don't realize that emotions set the climate of every room they walk into. Leaders aren't remembered because they never felt pressure. They're remembered because they kept their internal temperature steady when the external conditions were chaotic. That's what emotional control does. It keeps your vision clear when the storm is blinding. And if you want to live a life of impact, you can't afford to be a thermometer that simply reflects what's happening. You must become the thermostat that sets the tone, raises the standard, and shifts the atmosphere. Most people are reactive thermostats. They're only hot when things are going well, and they go cold the minute resistance shows up. Their emotions are constantly swinging between extremes, but successful people, real, grounded, forward, moving people, build emotional thermostats that remain steady. They don't let every criticism drop their temperature. They don't let every compliment falsely inflate it. They understand that the game is long and emotions can't be allowed to hijack progress. Your goals don't care how you feel today. Your purpose doesn't shrink because you're offended. The mission doesn't pause because your feelings got hurt. That's why the thermostat must be set by values, not moods. Set it by discipline, not disappointment. Set it by purpose, not pressure. Because once you lock in that setting, you can walk into unstable environments and not be shaken. You walk in and shift the climate. Think about it. Walk into any boardroom, classroom, family room, or even crisis room, and you'll see this play out. The person who controls their emotions becomes the one everyone looks to, not because they're the loudest or smartest, but because they're the most stable. In a world where everyone is reacting, stability is rare and powerfully attractive. That's why emotional control is influence. When you stay calm, others listen. When you stay focused, others follow. When you stay grounded, others gain strength from your presence. But none of that happens if you're always adjusting your emotions to the chaos around you. You must be set before the storm hits. You must have internal boundaries that say, this is how I think, this is how I speak, this is how I lead. Regardless of what's happening around me. You don't rise to success by reacting. You rise by resetting the atmosphere, starting with yourself. And here's the thing. Your emotional setting is your responsibility, not your spouse's, not your boss's, not your past's. You decide how you respond. You decide what state you operate from. You decide what you bring into a room. Emotional responsibility is a form of leadership. Stop blaming the weather of your life for the internal climate you're choosing. If you want peace, set peace. If you want excellence, set excellence. If you want joy, set it, and don't wait for circumstances to agree. You don't need perfect conditions to set a powerful emotional standard. You need a decision, because when you set it, you lead it, and what you lead, you influence. And what you influence, you multiply. Now let's be honest. Keeping your emotional thermostat set takes intentional effort. It's not a set it and forget it kind of deal. Life will test you. People will push you. Pressure will try to lower your setting. That's why awareness and renewal are key. You have to check in with yourself. Ask, where is my emotional temperature today? If it's dropping, raise it. Shift your focus. Speak truth out loud. Remind yourself of your mission. Do the work. Because if you don't manage your state, someone else will, through drama, distraction, or dysfunction. But when you manage your state, you stay in the driver's seat of your destiny. It doesn't mean life will always be easy, but it means you'll always be ready. And here's the secret. The more consistently you manage your emotional thermostat, the more your environment begins to mirror your mindset. People respect emotional consistency. Opportunities are drawn to emotional maturity. Peace follows discipline. Clarity follows control. You don't get lucky. You get prepared, and emotional control is preparation in its highest form. It tells life, I'm not here to survive. I'm here to lead. I'm not here to reflect the chaos. I'm here to command the climate. Whether you're in the heat of pressure or the cold of disappointment, you stay true to your temperature, and eventually everything around you has no choice but to rise or leave. So if you're tired of being pushed around by life, if you're done with emotional ups and downs keeping you stuck, it's time to reset your thermostat. Decide today, I will set the tone, I will lead with strength, I will choose peace, I will think higher, I will stay focused. And when you do that, you won't just feel better, you'll live better, because when emotional control becomes your baseline, success becomes your lifestyle. You either run your emotions, or your emotions will run you into ruin. There's no middle ground in this game. Either you run your emotions with authority, or your emotions will run you straight into ruin. That's not dramatic, that's the truth. Emotions, when unchecked, don't just distract you. They derail you. They don't just cost you a moment. They can cost you momentum, relationships, purpose, and years of progress. Because when you allow your emotions to run wild, you are giving the wheel of your destiny to a blind driver. Emotions aren't evil, but they are impulsive. They react in seconds without thinking long term. They amplify what hurts and minimize what matters. They scream now and silence wisdom. That's why you can't let them run the show, not even for a moment. You either take the lead or they will. And if you allow your emotions to lead, they won't just take you off track. They'll convince you the detour is justified. That's the deception of emotional chaos. It always feels right in the moment, but it's almost never right for the mission. We've all seen it. People who were on the verge of something great, businesses about to break through, relationships on the edge of restoration, purpose about to bloom, and then emotion hit. Pride stepped in and they couldn't say, "I'm sorry." Fear stepped in and they didn't take the risk. Offense stepped in and they walked away from alignment. Insecurity stepped in and they began shrinking their vision to fit their feelings. What happened? Emotion took over. And when emotion runs the house, it burns everything down. This is why mastering your emotional state is not just a side quest, it's survival. It's how you protect your legacy. It's how you stay in the game when lesser versions of you would have walked away. It's how you build something that lasts. Running your emotions means you call the shots, even when your body and brain are screaming otherwise. It means when anger rises, you don't unleash it, you examine it. When fear whispers, you don't obey it, you interrogate it. When offense shows up, you don't nurse it, you dismiss it before it digs roots. Because if you give emotion an inch, it will take your peace, your clarity, and eventually your destiny. But when you decide, "No, I run this," everything changes. You show up different. You stop reacting to every bump in the road. You start thinking long term. You become a builder, not a burner. You make decisions from vision, not vengeance. And that emotional mastery sets you apart in a world full of people who blame their moods for their messes. You've got to understand, your emotional state is the software that drives your behavior. If the software is buggy, everything you try to build will glitch. You'll say things you regret, sabotage things you love, and rationalize toxic cycles because that's just how I felt. But feelings are not facts. Feelings are not finish lines. They are signals, not instructions. They're meant to be observed, not obeyed. When you elevate your awareness, you can say, "I see the feeling, but I don't serve it." That's what power looks like. Real emotional leadership isn't cold-heartedness, it's clarity. It's choosing courage over comfort, growth over gratification, and truth over temporary relief. It's leading yourself well so you can lead others with integrity. When you run your emotions, you don't suppress them, you steward them, you don't ignore them, you investigate them, but you never let them make executive decisions. That role belongs to wisdom, and wisdom comes from stepping back, breathing deep, and asking, "What's the bigger picture?" Wisdom is what reminds you that emotions are temporary, but consequences are not. That one angry outburst might cost you your reputation. That one emotional purchase might derail your financial future. That one impulsive decision could compromise everything you've built. But when you lead your emotions with intentionality, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space is power. In that space is growth. In that space is everything that separates reaction from maturity. Let's be real. Running your emotions doesn't mean you won't feel the weight. It means you won't let the weight decide your direction. Emotional control is strength under restraint. It's fire with form. It's passion with perspective. It's crying when you need to but rising when you must. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's learning to pause instead of pounce. It's commanding peace even in the middle of chaos. That's the kind of strength that transforms your life, not just externally, but internally, because when you no longer fear your emotions, you become fearless in your purpose. You no longer avoid hard conversations. You have them with grace. You no longer hide from failure. You face it and learn. You no longer let comparison rob you. You run your race, eyes forward, grounded in your lane. So here's the question you need to ask yourself every day. Who's running me right now? My emotions or my mission? Because only one can lead. You cannot build greatness on emotional impulse. You cannot lead others when you're a slave to your inner storms. You must choose mastery, choose alignment, choose to lead your feelings instead of following them, because your future is too important to be hijacked by temporary emotions. The dream is too big, the calling is too sacred. The impact is too real. You were never meant to be ruled by your moods, you were born to rule over them, and the moment you decide to run your emotions instead of letting them run you, you flip the switch from survival to success. From reaction to revolution, from emotional ruin to emotional reign, and that is the moment everything begins to change.